All right. Welcome to Hypnosis Hero. Get hypnotized through the screen, the only Hypnosis Hero show where you can actually get hypnotized through the screen because we actually do that through the screen. Uh, of course, we are recording live, and as it is Tuesday, June the 3rd, 2025. The sun is shining, at least here it is anyway. We did have some rain and some kind of weird hail pebbles earlier today, but otherwise a good day. And speaking of good days and always good to see somebody, let's bring on our co-host, Mr. Brian Bay. Yay!
Always a
How's that for
pleasure,
sound
man.
effects?
I was like, oh my, a little too minor children, I'm not Catholic, but
All
we
good.
we should be on par after Tommy's show last week.
Yes.
We'll just continue upsetting people for whatever reasons, but no, man,
You know,
God,
it's I have to say it's unfortunate that we did that, and it in some ways is probably you know uh, not necessarily the thing that you want to do with your viewership. However, when you have a strong belief and it comes up against new science that tends to prove something that is opposite to what you believe, you now have a choice to make. And that would be the same regardless of what background you're from. Anytime you come up against something new, if it's provable, then either you take it as the truth, or you look at it through the lens which you were brought up with. So if that's a particular faith, then
well,
that's still the
and I
lens you're going to look through it as.
what I can say, or what I will definitively say, is we did last week's show, and I have a clear conscience. I think that the way that we presented it was taken completely out of context by some folks, which is easy to do.
With us, that's definitely easy to do.
Well, and I think what both Tommy and you and I were trying to get at is we're trying to put information out, like, hey, there are people who think this way, this way, this way, this way, and we're trying to share a variety of different perspectives. It's not necessarily representative of what we believe, or that we're trashing one belief system or not. And with a religious belief system, it's people get pretty passionate about it. So it's easy for folks to get really wound up and respond accordingly. But I, like I said, I came out of last week's show clear conscience, slept like a baby, life is good. We're not meaning any harm or anything like that. But are you guys thawing out up in the Great White North?
Yeah, I had some rain today, but other than that, it's still well above zero, which is always nice to see. Um, yeah, and just circling back one last Canada U.S. jibber jab, because we know that the Stanley Cup Finals are coming up starting on Wednesday in Canada because they're the better team. Um, it's it. Ever since the expansion teams joined, it always seems like the Stanley Cup is getting later and later and later. Like by the time they're done the Stanley Cup, they're into training for next year already because next year starts earlier than it ever did. So kudos to the
On,
hockey players.
on that note, Jennifer Lopez has 6 rings. Toronto Maple Leafs nothing. Just saying.
Yeah, but Toronto's much older than she is, so
She's had more work done.
well, I don't know if you've ever been in downtown Toronto, that may or may not be true.
Yeah,
We'll have to see.
I hear Toronto is one of Canada's best kept secrets,
Uh,
and not just because
it's
Toronto is
not
where you go to
really.
review all the questionable goals.
Yeah, no, it's not really a secret in Canada. We call it the center of the universe because it tends to suck everything in its orbit into the center. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
So
that's what we call Toronto. Anyway,
no.
I can't speak too badly of Toronto because next week our guest next time our guest is actually coming from Toronto. So
Oh, good.
we have to be nice, east west nice. Yeah,
No,
for
so
now.
we got to say hi to Tommy G. Orlando, our guest from last week. He's like, wait, did I cause a ruckus? I'm like,
I don't
no.
know if you caused a ruckus, but we saw your post after the broadcast, Tommy, and kind of felt bad that you got a little bit of
That makes one of us. Like I said, clear
well,
conscience.
I was in an evangelical church for quite a while, and so I understand where it comes from and what the beliefs are, and yeah, again, when it comes up against something new, it tends to push it away in favor of what it thinks it knows. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's just my take on it. And
Yeah.
of course, we have somebody from across the pond.
Becca, all the way over from England, joining us tonight. I'm sure that Grant's out either sleeping or traveling or doing something, I'm sure.
Well,
But
actually, we did have a quick Zoom session earlier today. He's been a busy boy, running all over southern England, and he's got regular shows out in certain areas. So Thursday nights, when he does Hypno News, he's coming back from a show already. Like it's just kind of weird how the whole time thing works with that, but.
as long as Grant stays healthy, Grant, if you're watching, pace yourself, homie. Like lattes are not a food group.
No,
but
that's true. That's
but
true. Uh-oh.
yeah. Tommy says hoping for a bigger ruckus next time. Well, yeah, if you want to go do the Kanye West strategy, all right. You know,
That can be arranged.
any press is good press. Um, but no, Tommy, we love you, man. Hold you in a very high regard, and hope that you're holding up well, especially after Tom's passing, and our thoughts are still with the family and everything.
Yeah,
But we've got a cool guest on tonight.
we do. And actually, I'm trying to remember where exactly we met. I'm going to say it was a TikTok somewhere along the way. And then it just got on to, uh, it would have been when Chanel and I were hosting Sunday morning TikToks. That's what it was. And we met our guest and had him on a couple of times. And we, talking, said, we got to get back to doing that because it was kind of fun. So, we should introduce our guest because you know what? Hypnosis Hero isn't supposed to be about us, as heroic as we are.
No,
Okay.
we take our little slice of pie at the beginning, and then we make it about the guest. So
Yeah, but what pie is it? Is it like a butterscotch pie? Is it apple
for the
pie?
terms and conditions of my probation, Sean, I am not in Facebook community standards and YouTube algorithms. I am not permitted to answer that question.
All right, all right. That way we stay monetized, everybody. That's the way we do it.
Yeah.
All right, so our guest, Chuck DeBroder, also known as the Hypnotic Weatherman. He is a unique blend of mind geek and weather geek with a passion for both fields. Growing up in the Denver, Colorado suburbs near the foothills, he developed a fascination for weather, especially thunderstorms and winter storms.
Go
Probably another
Avalanche.
reason. Probably another reason that Chuck and I get along so well is I have lots of winter storms. Guess what? It's Canada. Chuck's educational journey began at Colorado State University in Pueblo, where he earned his first degree in broadcasting and public relations with a minor in psychology, and later pursued his love of meteorology and obtained his Bachelor of Science degree from Metropolitan State University in Denver. His dedication to the field is evident as he was certified by and a member of both the American Meteorologists Society and the National Weather Association. So if you need weather, just call Chuck. He'll give you weather. With an impressive broadcasting career, Chuck worked at NBC in Lubbock for a year and a half before spending 23 years and 4 months at the NBC affiliate in El Paso. That's Texas for those of us that are outside of the States. During the time, he honed his skills as weatherman and became a respected figure in the industry. In 2004, So he's actually been at hypnosis longer than I have. Chuck took a unique turn and studied hypnosis with Alex William Smith, earning his hypnotherapy certification, and went on to achieve a Master of Hypnosis designation and obtain the certification in Complete Mind Therapy, CMT, from the Royal Institute of Hypnotherapy and Psychotherapy. As a proud member of the Association of Complete Mind Therapists, Chuck applies his expertise to help contractors, business owners, and entrepreneurs struggling with anxiety, lack of confidence, and insomnia. And through his exclusive hypnotic mind shift transformation method, he empowers individuals to unlock their full potential and become high performance leaders without relying on traditional therapy or medications. That's a mouthful, but what it means is Chuck knows how to get people going in the right direction. In recognition of his outstanding achievements, Chuck DeBroder was awarded the Master Hypnotist of the Year in 2018. With a unique combination of meteorology and hypnosis, he continues to make a positive impact on people's lives, providing them with effective solutions to reach their goals and overcome challenges. And I know he just had an interesting hypnosis session with a client, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about coming up here. But for everybody out there, please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Chuck DeBroder.
Hello.
Standing ovation this time.
Yeah, that's Chuck. A wild studio audience up there in Canada, eh?
Well, that's the way we roll, eh?
Now, Shawn,
they had to go a little extra with tariffs and stuff. But.
Okay, yeah, And Brian and Shawn, thank you so much. I'm very grateful to be on your
our
Wave video. And what an intro. Thank you very much, Shawn. Yeah, we hooked up on TikTok, but I've seen your name everywhere. Like and again, rest in peace. One of the greats, Tom Silver, was a friend with him, had many a late night Facebook chats with him. And Shawn let me know another great I didn't know passed away, Anthony Gailey, who, boy, his hypnosis method was so smooth and he was so educated and smooth with his explanations of hypnosis. But he did it the right way. He did corporate shows and made like 10 grand a show and really wowed some very important people. But yeah, I got interested in hypnosis years ago watching a hypnotic lawyer, Jerry Spence, who owned about half the state of Wyoming, but he won 23 cases against the US government in a row. Federal cases. Can you believe that? But he would hypnotize the jury.
Wait, what's his name?
Jerry Spence.
Jerry Spence. Okay. Note to self. Got to Google that later.
Yeah. He has a great book called Gunning for Justice. But Jerry, now, he would use Ericksonian words and phrases to what I call my first part of my session is eyes open hypnosis, using Ericksonian ways to drop you from beta, the awake state, to alpha. And, hopefully I'm not too boring and I don't put people to sleep, I tell all my clients, but there you go. And then I use visualization techniques and then traditional eyes closed relaxation hypnosis as well. So
that's pretty interesting. So he would use. So kind of give me a quick, like for the people that
I'm almost thinking like Bob.
I was gonna say full on East Coast Schwartz, but more NLP type stuff. I was gonna ask you if you wanted to put the Ericksonian stuff into kind of layman's terms for folks that are watching that may not be familiar.
Well, automatic words. One of my favorite is the word because, right? And and is, and little words. Improve is also a little known hypnotic word that people just automatically will drop into a listening mode, a relaxed mode. And neurolinguistic programming, I got to see Richard Bandler and John Grinder years ago up at Colorado University in a lecture before NLP was really big. And probably about the same time that Tony Robbins went to go see him. And Tony was so poor, he went to see them on their weekend lecture, and I think it was like $800, $700, and they had a money back guarantee. So Tony Robbins, who was going by Anthony Robbins at the time, at the end of the first day of the seminar, asked for his money back. And the lady goes, "Oh, yeah. Can I ask if you didn't like it or what was wrong?" He goes, "No, I just need that money to pay rent. And I learned everything I need to know." And a lot of Anthony Robbins' basics of motivation were based on that day and then what he subsequently learned from John Grinder later on. But he opened up a stop smoking clinic up in Canada. Did you know that, Shawn? And he was helping people to stop smoking with what he learned in the NLP seminar.
This is Anthony Robbins.
Anthony Robbins, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And so, and hopefully maybe next week's guest, is it Mike Mandel? I don't know.
No, not. We haven't been able to corner Mike yet. And if Mike comes on, Chris has to come with him. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly. But I've learned some things from Mike Mandel, who teaches up at the University of Toronto. And Toronto's a beautiful city. And I just remember
we make fun of it all the time, but it is really a vibrant city.
Yeah, it is. And the traffic is something to make fun of, and some other things. I hung out at the Silver Dollar back when I used to tilt the elbow and drink some Labatt's Blue, right? And I'm there with some hockey fans, probably about 15, maybe 18 people max. And they keep rolling in kegs of beer. And I'm like, "Oh, it's a Friday. You're getting ready for the weekend." She goes, "No, just all these crew here have tapped our kegs. They've drank them dry." So there you go. But what made me get into hypnosis?
Yeah, Becca's asking that.
Yeah, Becca. Hey, great question. I loved mentalism. I loved the long-term magic tricks. And Becca, if you're over in England, you know Darren Brown, who I was introduced on YouTube years ago and by a friend of mine who's over there in London. And then, David Blaine and Chris Angel, just the long-term tricks that I found out many of the magicians had trained in hypnosis. And then Jerry Spence, the lawyer, I was told by my uncle, who was Jerry's private pilot, and my uncle was a captain in the Navy, and he was also had a law degree. So Jerry wanted a pilot that he could discuss law cases with while he was flying, and he hired my uncle. So to hear Jerry say, well, as the district attorney, or as he would say, as the federal attorney in the purple velvet suit or blue velvet suit, and he would hold a lot of the trials in Wyoming or in country areas where blue velvet suits were kind of frowned upon. But he would just use little phrases like that would slowly turn the jurors, and then he would use hypnotic terms and phrases, and really get cases that probably he had no business winning, he would win. He won Karen Silkwood against the state of Oklahoma that they made a movie about. Randy Weaver, a supposed white supremacist up in Pacific Northwest who his whole family was killed by the DEA, FBI, and all that. So interesting cases, interesting guy. And he's still alive, last time I Googled, and in his low 90s. But of course, he's not practicing law now. But yeah, I got interested in that, and I studied it the whole time I was getting my second degree in meteorology, and then when I was on TV. And I had to work at Chili's restaurant during my first TV job, and that should have been a red flag for me to go into television. I made more money as a Chili's waiter than I did on TV. I made $8 an hour as a TV weekend weatherman in Lubbock, and people would be like, "Hey Chuck, I love your weather. What are you doing here?" I'm like, "How do you like your fajitas? I got to pay my 2 college degrees and my rent." So, yeah. So, what other questions do you have for me, guys?
Well, I think just to provide context, because I know quite a bit about you.
Okay.
But for everybody else out there, your bio mentioned that you work with a lot of businesses and a lot of business people to help them push ahead and push through whatever is holding them back. What are some of those business successes that you've seen with your clients, and what were their issues that they were?
Yeah, I was going to ask, what are the most common things that you see from your clients that they're struggling with, and then go on to Shawn's thing about the successes?
Absolutely. Perfect question. With the business people that I've helped, they let their personal life get in the way of their business. Number one, family life, it's tough not to do, but I work on perfectionism, lack of motivation. But the biggest boost in any business is opening up their creativity. Because when you're stuck within your business, that's your whole world. And what I do in hypnosis and with my hypnotic mind shift method is I do a Scrooge effect. You know, the Christmas story of Scrooge and the ghost of Christmas future, past, and present. I have them step out of their business and look at it mentally from a third person perspective, and then they can see where they're mentally stuck and they're not really stuck. Perfectionism, imposter syndrome, focusing more on the competition than themselves, or figuring out everyone's going to find out they're an imposter, they're a fake. Anxiety and depression, which 20 years ago I argued with psychotherapists because anxiety and depression are married. If you have anxiety, you're also depressed. And if you're depressed, you're also anxious. And I have a doctorate of psychology as a client who said, "Hey, Chuck, I know a good hypnotist can help me get rid of my anxiety right now. And the methods I teach future psychiatrists and doctors and masters of psychology, I know will take 3 to 5 years." So, yeah, I helped her in 2 sessions. She did another 3 to lose weight, but she's given me permission to share the specifics. A lot of my business clients and clients do. My business clients say use my photo and use my full name. But the doctorate of psychology that was a department head at a major United States university, her root of anxiety was a fellow professor. And Becca is there watching, but women can be, I don't know if you know this, they can be quite petty, right, with each other and very competitive. And this other female professor caused this lady to not be at the top of her game. So I flipped the emotional attachment because we attach fear, all the negative emotions you can think of to anxiety. And I had her laugh during the hypnotic sessions, first 2 hours of working together. And the next time she saw this lady, she fell to the ground on the college campus laughing. The lady came over to her and said, "Hey, is everything okay?" And she looked at her and laughed even harder. And then she just said, "Oh, I thought of a funny joke. Gotta go teach a class. See ya, bye." But that's the type of thing that I do in a simple explanation is we flip the way you mentally, emotionally attach things to. And of course, our troublemaker is really our conscious mind, right? Now, it's programmed by the subconscious, but our conscious mind says, for example, Chuck needs that cigarette to be Chuck. Well, no, Chuck's a better person by being a non smoker. But if we can program the fact that there's 497 added poisons to a Marlboro cigarette, and the chemical combinations turn into almost 4,000 subchemicals. And a buddy of mine worked at Marlboro, and he said in North Carolina, you drive up to the plant, and it doesn't smell like tobacco. It smells like chocolate. Marlboro is the #1 purchaser of Hershey's chocolate in the world. So after they, and by the way, the original recipe for methamphetamine was based on the extra poisons they put into a cigarette. So the last step, they cover it in chocolate. So then when you smoke it, it fires off the oxytocin in your brain, the love chemical, as kind of a last little addictive property to a cigarette. Isn't that wild?
Interesting.
Huh. I was going to say there's probably a lot of stuff that goes into their advertising as well.
Oh,
but when they were able to do it,
yeah, there was a lot of hypnotic things that go into advertising a Nike shoe that were originally borrowed from the original cigarette advertising, right? They even advertised it as a healthy boost to your health.
I mean, I'm old enough to, I mean, this was back when I was a young child, but I remember, auto racing, motorcycle racing, boat racing was heavily influenced by the different tobacco companies and cigarette brands.
Yeah, Players International, I remember in Canada was a major sponsor of a lot of boat races.
Well, when you go into a bar, also liquor companies or beer companies more likely, they always advertise all these healthy, in shape, worked out guys that just have played 2 hours of volleyball and now they're going to drink a beer. Mm-hmm. But if you go into a bar, you don't see many people in shape. I'll put it that way, that are bar regulars, right?
Yeah, they have a special bar shape.
Exactly.
They just kind of melt over the bar stool.
Yeah. And then I won't get too controversial. I was going to go down the I have a lot of clergy that come into this office that say, "Hey, Chuck, can you teach me some hypnotic phrases and words to use for the sermons to get into my congregation's heads a little better each Sunday?" And, if you think about it, churches use hypnosis. And they stimulate all the senses. First, they stimulate visual, the beautiful stained glass and the statues, and the chapel is beautiful. Then auditory, the choirs and the organ. Then olfactory. A lot of churches burn incense, the sense of smell. And then gustatory, taking communion, the wafer and the wine. And then finally, kinesthetic, they tell you to shake your fellow churchgoer's hand or give a hug or whatever. And they know 22 minutes into the service, which is now the time I'm told the first offertory plate goes around in a Catholic service. They know you're in the alpha state. You're in a better state of mind to give a little bit more out of your wallet, eh? So,
well, you'll also see a lot of the like, forgive me for butchering the specifics, but it's like the Southern Baptist revival where, you know, it's like, we're going to cast the demons out of you, and people are flopping all over the pulpit and the altar and stuff up at the front and in the aisles. And I'm like, that's like they just did a full-on pre-talk and induction and then just went, all right, showtime, everybody. Which is, you know, sometimes when I'm on stage, I'll kind of playfully joke with people. I'm like, look, religions have been started this way way back when.
There's a guy in India.
I'll usually say, like, you know, medieval times, you know, but
if you ever want to see older videos or even more current videos of Benny Hinn in India, and he is pretty much does a full-on stage hypnosis show, and he's getting people out of wheelchairs, and it's no different than making somebody feel like it's freezing cold or sweating on the beach or dancing and singing like their favorite band. A lot of healers are really good stage hypnotists as well. So
Scott King's got a pretty interesting comment. He says the two instant trance words in the Western culture are sleep and heal. And Scott, I hope you're doing well down in Texas. Hope that reconstruction stuff is going well. So shoot me a message on that.
Hey, Scott, welcome. And I'm as far west in Texas as you can go. I'm the only place in the mountain time zone, and I'm almost closer to Los Angeles than I am to Houston. That's how big Texas is. And then I'm looking right out my front door into Mexico. So we're the truest border city in the United States as well. So
El Paso?
as you can, El Paso, Texas.
Oh yeah. What's it? Fort Bliss.
We have Fort Bliss, soon to be the biggest U.S. military installation in the world. It is the biggest land-wise. And then we look right into the Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, Mexico. And Chihuahua is the biggest state in Mexico. And we have the best Mexican food anywhere in the world right here.
I would hope so. It's authentic.
Yeah, it is. And my wife is a professional chef and a pastry chef. And she's also got a master's in linguistics and symbiology, the power of symbols. And she taught politicians and clergy for a while until she stopped because she said a lot of them had both nefarious intentions. But she's brilliant, and she'll help me.
Politicians with nefarious intent?
Yeah,
can you imagine so, Chuck?
No.
That only happens in the States.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if Trudeau, I don't know how many days a year he actually was in Canada. He was in France most of the time, I think. But
I think that was more of a self-preservation thing on his part.
Yeah, I believe so. But as you can tell, people watching, I might have a little ADHD. I touch on a lot of subjects, but I love hypnosis. I love to talk, as you can tell. And I got paid.
I'm looking at Shawn's facial expressions. The wheels are turning. He's going, "Oh shit! I've got two squirrels on either side of me right now."
That's okay. I still remember the first time you guys brought me onto the podcast, and you said keep us in line. And then we had Wendy Friesen on, and that was still in the days when I was still 100% behind the scenes, trying to get you guys to slow down. Hey guys, we're going on to. Hey guys, it's 3 hours now. And there was no reeling you guys in.
I mean that. We've had a couple of shows and a couple of guests where like the entire agenda and game plan just falls off the rails, but it is an absolute blast because you just jump right in and
it makes for the most fun. Alex William Smith, who happens to be my main mentor, he was the guy. I started training with him because he was no nonsense. He simplified things. Some hypnosis trainers say, "Oh, don't even try. Try is to fail with honor." James Arthur Ray told me that of The Secret. But what a great definition. To try is to fail with honor. But yeah, people say don't even try to hypnotize anybody for at least the first couple of years while you're studying hypnotherapy. Well, how do you learn if you don't go out there and do it, right? Now, people worry about ab reactions. I made a biker 2 months ago. He broke the record. I made him cry in the first 30 seconds of the therapy session. And people were like, "Oh, if they start crying, stop the therapy." No. How do you feel after you cry? It's a release. Yeah. It's a relief. And really,
I would be curious as to, and I'm not asking what it was about, but I would be curious to know, like, if I was there, okay, what's the content that we're discussing? What is he crying about? Is it just a release of emotions? Is it a good thing? Or, hey, are we going into some dark territory where it's like, look, we may need some higher level of care?
Yeah.
And knowing the differences.
Yeah. And at first I thought that was the case. 99% of the time, it is a release of emotions, and it's a good thing.
Yeah.
My wife had to come out one time with a guy who had a severe anxiety attack. But some of those, especially here lately, are just looking for drugs or looking for you to support. And they don't realize a hypnotherapist, unless they're involved with a nurse practitioner or a doctor of psychology who can prescribe medication. It really is.
You need some letters after your name.
Yeah. But, I'm in the state of Texas, and I'm a hypnotist. So I actually have a few doctors as clients.
Mm-hmm.
And did you know the American Medical Association can actually yank a doctor's license if they know they're getting mental health care? Does that seem right?
Don't get me started on special operations pilots, veterans and law enforcement. There's some high echelon stuff. I mean, yeah, you for some of your top tier stuff, you need people wire tight on their A game, and depending on what it is. But if it's like, look, I'm working through a death in the family, or just some personal stuff, okay, cool. But when you basically sit there and make somebody choose between getting the help that they need, or I'm potentially going to risk losing my primary source of income, my identity, and all that stuff. I'm going to keep my mouth shut so that I can preserve that and along with an aspect of purpose and dignity at the risk of the public.
Yeah. And
look at that Alaska Airlines pilot that tried to grab the emergency things and like shut off the engines and whatnot in midair. And it was like, hey, I was kind of tripping balls on shrooms and, I haven't slept in 5 days and I'm a mental wreck.
Mm-hmm.
When we hit wake turbulence or some wind shear when we're coming in on landing, I don't want that guy flying my plane.
No.
But, these companies invest so much money. I mean, when I was in the military, let's see, our American tax dollars, probably between my security clearance, training, and other stuff that I was doing, that's before even any salary, is probably anywhere between $1 and $3 million.
Oh yeah.
And exactly. to sit there and go, oh, we're just going to chuck that right out the window, versus, hey, let's, and we've got a lot of guys that, have global war and terrorism that are that have come back. I'm encouraged to see that mental health is, getting a little bit more of a spotlight. We're trying to destigmatize a lot of stuff, but, we still have a long way to go.
Oh, we do.
And, I'd be remiss if I, didn't have a shout out to, or, throw some kudos to our first responders and law enforcement who, guys go down range, in a war, and it's like, yeah, you go see some ugly stuff, but okay, if you did 4 tours, all right, you might be looking at anywhere between 3 to 5 years downrange time versus law enforcement, first responders, firefighters. Some of these guys are seeing this every day or several times a week for 20 years. And then all of a sudden they go, hey, I retired. Congratulations. If you don't have cancer yet, you will. And then you've lost your identity. And people tend to backslide and they slip into really dark places because like they were the guy. They held it all together. And then they go, okay, I'm not that person anymore. I don't know what to do. I don't have a mission. I don't have.
You just direction. Described many of my Fort Bliss clients. I've helped. I started off emphasizing sleep, and Matthew Walker, who's a sleep expert, said, lack of sleep is at the basis of all health-related challenges. Well, when you come back from Afghanistan, like this one guy came back from, or Iraq, this guy had not slept in 5.5 years through the night. And I have a professionally recorded binaural beat recorded in a studio, and self-hypnosis, but it's a hypnosis session with my voice. And he had one session with me, and he said, honey, to his wife, this hypnotist says this is supposed to help me sleep. Listen to this with me. She knocked out in about 8 minutes. He was gone in 12 minutes, and he had his first 8-hour full night of sleep that he had in almost 6 years. And he slept ever since.
In some of your advanced interrogation stuff, you're going to, sleep deprivation is a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
Stress positions. I mean, you look at the Navy SEALs when they're going through buds. I don't remember which phase it's in. But Hell Week. I mean, you're talking about guys who are going to who just beat the crap out of themselves. 18, 20 hours a day, or it's all day. And I think they allow them a cumulative total of like 4 hours of sleep in 5 days.
Yeah, which is
that sounds like university for me.
But only the buds candidates aren't able to go pack themselves with booze and Ritalin.
Yeah, exactly.
No, in my case,
it's,
it was Jolt and caffeine pills and anything else I could find that would keep me awake.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
especially
I
when
have.
you're those high pressure environments. You're like, okay, I've got to be switched on because, and I've watched a lot of DJ Shipley, um, a former SEAL Team 6 guy. He goes,
Mm-hmm.
I have to be at this caliber because if I screw something up, I don't come home. One of my teammates doesn't come home. There's like, I cannot let, my actions, I can't let my team down and even myself down. And he goes, if it was not mission oriented, he goes, I didn't care if the garbage disposal, backed up at home or there's a plumbing issue. He goes, my
Mm-hmm.
wife's supposed to take care of that because I need to be 100% focused on workup and downrange so I can come home. And those are guys that are getting pulled away left and right. And he goes, if there's not something that's 100% mission focused, I'm chopping it out of my life.
I did morning weather for like 2 years, and I got up. First, I got up at like 12:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
We had bad technology back in the day, and then I was getting up at about 3 in the morning. But your mind and body love routine. And so I
Yeah.
teach people to go into a circadian rhythm and go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time. And I encourage everybody to do that, to get the morning sunlight, to shut off the cortisol, the stress, fight, flight, or freeze hormone, but
Mm-hmm.
chemical. And, which mainly is produced by the stomach. Our gut is the most important organ of our body. But I digress. Um, Spinning back around, yeah, I've had a lot of military, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of government. I have Border Patrol down here as
Oh yeah,
clients,
Border
state.
Patrol probably sees some disgusting stuff.
Oh, yeah, I have State Department, wink, wink, three
Mm-hmm.
letter organization people
The
that,
alphabet agencies.
yeah, yeah, that come to see me. Um, and it's very interesting. I just had a pro boxer. I told Shawn on he's going to be fighting in August in Las Vegas, and yeah, he was blown away by my session before I got on here, which is cool. And I'm just a guide. I don't take credit for anything. I just put the people into the right file room in their mind and show them where all the answers are in the right file folders, and then they find them in a series of aha moments and breakthroughs. But Shawn, this is called looping. Milton Erickson did it all the time. I'm going to loop back to your question finally. Business hypnosis, and my client wins. I had one lady who, I helped her friend get promoted and get an $80,000 a year pay raise in the 3 months I worked with her. It took Raquel Brasilia 3 years to finally say, okay, I'll go on a Zoom little strategy call with Chuck. She joined the program. Her and her husband had a fence company. Rewind a little bit. She was a pregnant 15-year-old here in El Paso, had one and then a second baby by the time she was 17. Her party baby's daddy and husband, they got divorced. She moved to Atlanta, and she met another guy from Mexico who was a hard worker, had a fence company. She had an accounting firm, but she felt because she spoiled her two daughters that she was a failure as a mother. And she's given me 1,000% permission to share all this. Otherwise, I wouldn't share any of it. But within 2023, we opened up her creativity. I came up with the idea. I'm like, have you ever talked to the big box stores like Lowe's or Home Depot? She called up Lowe's, and Lowe's was like, oh my gosh, we're looking for a responsible fence building company. We'll pay all the salaries, all the federal taxes, the transportation costs, and all the materials of the fences. All you have to do is build fences for our contract, people that hire you through us. And she went from one Lowe's to now she's building fences for 29 Lowe's in and around the state of Georgia. She was actually offered by the regional guy 12 states to train local fence companies in 12 different states for Lowe's. She went from $2 million a year, the 3 previous years before we worked together. She hired me for 3-month programs. And the first year, 2023, she went from 2 million to 4.3 million. And last year she hit 5.8 million. And this year she's on the way to be to surpassing 7 million a year.
Is this for my understanding, is this revenue or is this like net income to her?
This is gross revenue.
Okay. But for the business that she owns, correct?
For the business that her and her husband. Then we helped get a non-paying tenant out of one of her warehouses on property. And she said, I always wanted to open up an event center. We came up with the idea of during the week renting it out to multi-level marketing companies like Amway is there on Tuesday nights, AmeriCorps on Wednesdays, and Narium and whatever. And then on the weekends, she rents it out for weddings, quinceañeras. And I helped her daughter, who was stuck mentally in college. She dropped to D's and F's at Georgia State University. And within 3 months, we got her to A pluses, extra credit. She got nothing below an A in the last semester and a half, and she walked the stage at Georgia State. Then I came up with the idea of opening up a photography studio. She wanted to go into the movie business. She graduated in cinematography and a major in film. But we opened up a photography studio in the event center. And then the youngest daughter dropped out of high school because mom is rich. So she's always going to pay for my Starbucks card and my car payment, right? So we got her back twice to get her GED, got her away from her toxic mate who didn't want her to succeed. And now she has a makeup studio next to the photography studio in the event center. And so now women can go to an event, get their makeup professionally done, get photos taken, and then do the event all in the same location. So then I made her feel, Raquel, more like her daughters had things together and more like she was a success as a mother. I got her turned on to a Stanford University program where Hispanic business owners that make $2 million a year or more are given free business training and basically a free mini degree from Stanford in business to learn how to operate their business. Because a lot of Hispanic businesses, we are the largest Hispanic percentage city in the nation at 86% here in El Paso. And a lot of them have $1 million a year businesses, but have absolutely no idea how to run a business. So now I help a lot of business owners do that. I had another success story of a medical contractor who called herself the queen of procrastination. She was not motivated. She was stuck. She lined up attorneys and accident victims with back surgeons and neurosurgeons. And after our first session, she paid for a 3-month program. She was so motivated, she drove 6.5 hours to Phoenix, Arizona, went to the largest law firm and got 5 new clients and made $140,000 in commissions the day after our first hypnosis session. So that's kind of the gist of the business hypnosis program and some of the success I've got. And then just normal hypnosis, I have people choose 3 things a session. So anxiety and depression are number 1, procrastination and motivation are number 2, and weight loss number 3. So we work on 3 things a session. And I had another business hypnosis lady. She didn't choose weight loss, but 4 days after our first session, she goes, "Chuck, I didn't tell you that I've been to 6 weight loss doctors. I didn't want to take Wegovy or Ozempic. I didn't want gastric bypass, but none of them could help me lose weight. And you made me cry and have a breakthrough in the first session. And all of a sudden, 4 days later, I'm 8 pounds lighter. A week later, she had lost 11 pounds. And now 7 weeks in, she's 43 pounds lighter. Her fiance's over on the East Coast. And now he wants to move to San Diego because, quote, she's become such a hottie. He doesn't want to lose his fiance from losing weight. So do I talk too fast, guys, or too much?
I'm kind of sitting there going, like, I see a lot of red flags with that relationship where insecurity is going to rear its ugly head and all that stuff. But I mean, I'm glad that you're getting, results and stuff from your clients. And I was keying in on the one where was it the lady who, or the person takes car accident victims
and their lawyers and lines them up
and the attorneys with medical professionals and everything like that. And curious about the dynamics there. I mean, obviously they're not getting paid by the attorneys because there would be most of your personal injury cases will work on contingency. And if you're not if you're not an attorney, you can't split fees or a percentage. You could say, hey, I can pay you for work that's done. Like a staff member.
She's getting paid by the doctors and the back surgery centers, mainly. But then the lawyers, when they win a case, there's a clause in the contract where they throw her a little bit of thank you.
I think they would probably have, for like compliance stuff, they'd probably have to do it up as like a, marketing and sales, and like you're providing a service, and
she's
and whatnot.
listed as a consultant.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I had never heard of that until she became my client. So
right. No, that's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I've noticed through the thread through all of it is you've taken people who, like you said, they were stuck, but they're motivated. They're already motivated. They know they need to do something.
Yep.
And it's almost like popping the cork off the bottle.
Yeah.
And away it goes, and away they go, and those successes that you
just need to aim them in the right, a safe direction first.
Well, you always you never want the cork to be pointed right at the wall. That's going to bounce back at you, but
or as a stage hypnotist, you want the cork pointed away from the edge of the front of the stage, right, for safety concerns, right?
But those are some phenomenal results, like and within days and weeks, not months and years and decades. And I've heard a lot of people say, talk therapy. I've been going to talk therapy for years, and nothing's really changed.
Yeah, I had a guy who said, I've been on anti-anxiety for 18 years. I said, how's that going for you? 18 years. Right?
Yeah, is your anxiety cured? No. I just get more and more addicted to my pharmaceutical meds. And here's my legal disclaimer. I am not a medical or mental health professional, and I'm not saying that there's not a place for, pharmaceutical medications, but there's one of the things that, growing up as a kid, my parents were going through a divorce and custody battle, and mom was really pushing the medication stuff for me.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the questions that my dad kept having for all these providers, they'd be like, oh, well, it's the buzzword, he's got a chemical imbalance. And my dad says, great, what chemicals is he lacking, by how much? We done blood work, how do you know? And he kind of applied his simple logic. He goes, I've got a mechanical background. If I am low on oil, I can check it with a dipstick. I can, there's different symptoms that, the engine makes, or performance stuff. And he goes, so what's going on with my son? And I remember I've told this story before, so kind of cliff notes is, we divvied up all the meds, put them in a Ziploc bag, go to mom's house, hide the medication in my mouth, spit it out, back and forth to mom and dad's house. And so we go in and we let this play out for about 45 days. And all of a sudden it was this miraculous, Brian is doing so much better. His improvement, the medication is super working. And my dad took the Ziploc bag and dumped it out all over the conference room table. And you would have thought that the entire school administration and my mother saw a ghost.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad was, you finally just got off his ass and decided that he's worth helping.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I had one kid 3 months ago. He had a psychiatrist appointment the day before he kept it, and it was free. So he went there, free consultation, and the doctor chased him out of the office, and he never did a medical history background on him, never found out if he was on any other medication or an alcoholic. And the psychiatrist said, oh, you forgot your goodie bag, and gave him a bag full of 6 medications. Okay? Didn't tell him how to take it or anything. He came to see me the next day.
Let me guess. No prescriptions, no instructions.
No prescriptions.
And it was
they were drug samples.
I was going to say, it's probably the samples from the drug rep that goes, here, try these. And it's a classical drug dealer strategy. The first one's free. I'm going to get you hooked. And that's why, trust me, I'm the biggest baby when it comes to, I recently I had surgery done last month, and I'm like, all I want to remember is this mask smells like is going to smell like plastic. Take a couple deep breaths, and then I want to wake up in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
I don't just conk me out. I don't want to remember anything. And okay, great. If there's something that's going to hurt, yes, give me the meds, but put me on them. Let's do what we need to do. Take me off.
Yeah. And long story short, it'll be 13 years in September. 13 years ago, I had open heart surgery, and my mitral valve stopped pumping water out of my body. I gained 100 pounds in water weight, and the water weight was causing all my other organs to fail. My TV station was still making me go up in front of the weather wall, which you couldn't see much of the weather map because I had exploded so big.
You're up there trying to do gymnastics on stage and reach across.
Yeah, and they made me go into work in congestive heart failure. I went to Mexico, which actually has excellent medical care, 4 or 5 nurses per room in the hospital. They had positive adult contemporary music playing in the hallway, actually good food in the hospital. What? But anyway, I digress. God, Buddha, Krishna, whatever you believe, the universe said, Chuck, you're not done yet. They used all my own parts and shrank my mitral valve, sewed all the leftover door parts into one. Now I have the blood pressure when it was 18. But
and what's crazy is some of these foreign medical procedures that are being done are performed by expats that are like, it's too cost prohibitive, and it's such a pain in the ass to practice medicine in the United States. I've got all the knowledge and the know-how and the skill set, but look, I can go down here and I can
I had an
very
expat,
comfortably, and I can just go get stuff done.
Anesthesiologist for my belly button hernia surgery, who said, oh, hey, you had heart surgery, so we have to watch what type of anesthesia we put you under because you've had heart surgery before. And we got to be careful of all that. But the reason I share all this is I found out how the medical industry works in the US. I went, none of the US doctors out of 13 told me it was my heart. It was the Mexican doctors who said, oh, yeah, he's dying of congestive heart failure. The neurologist is going to say it's in your brain. It's all in your head. The intestinal doctor is going to say it's something wrong with your gut. But when it comes to mental health, going back to that kid, he said, should I take any of this medication? I go, let's do hypnotherapy first, and then we'll revisit the medication. 2 weeks later, he came to me for his third session, and he said, I flushed all the medication down the toilet. I don't need it. And here's the thing. I've had mothers that the school board, the school counselor wants their kid to be on medication. I'm like, how can we find, in 20 years as a hypnotist, I've found that most of us have two root causes to our symptoms. And now, smoking, drinking, procrastination, they're all symptoms. Imposter syndrome. Anxiety and depression, I call a mid-level symptom. And then you have two root causes down below that. But how can we even get an inkling of what the root cause is if you're drugged up and stoned on prescription medication?
Oh, yeah.
And I have a psychiatrist that brings his two kids to see me. I have a doctorate of psychology that now I'm taking care of his sister. I've had, the other doctor of psychology that heads a major university department. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm honored and I'm grateful that they come to me, but they know maybe this medication is going to keep people in the symptoms for a very long time and not get to the root cause.
Right? Or even better, hey, take this medication. Don't worry, it's got a couple little bits of side effects, but it's okay. We can address those with other medications, and now you've turned one medication into four. And what just absolutely disgusts me about our public school system, because it happened to me, it happened to my son, and fortunately, when it happened to my son, I was able to call the teacher on it. And she says, oh, he's got ADD, blah, blah, blah. And he's, bipolar, all the other bullshit that she was trying to spew. He really needs medication. Like, you're just denying him an education, blah, blah, blah. Like, I was this horrible parent. Now, in the back of my mind, she doesn't know that I know that the school audiologist has said, hey, he's got some hearing loss on one side. And that we had taken him to said outside private audiologist who did the sound check, and it's like, repeat the word, and it's a female voice that says baseball, and he's like, or she says table, and he's like, I heard baseball. And you play Pete and repeat, and I'm like, oh, he's legitimately doesn't understand. So someone says, hey, like my girlfriend at the time, when we were living together, she would be like, I asked him to set the table and he was like, yeah, okay, cool. And I was like, I went home and I'm like, I feel horrible. Like, could you imagine somebody going, hey, I need you to set the baseball? And he's like, I don't know what that means, but I'll just say okay to go along with it.
Yeah.
But I asked the teacher, I said, hey, you know what? That's a great idea. I got like super enthusiastic. And I said, great, we've got this meeting with the school for the special ed stuff. I'm like, put all of that in your written recommendations along with all of your credentials that say that you're qualified to make this diagnosis.
Yeah.
And she looked at me, and 9 months of school left, I never saw her again.
And
She didn't show up
to
the meeting because she knew she was walking in to that oh shit trap of you're going to get reported to the school district, the health department. You're going to get hemmed up on so many different levels, and you're going to lose your teaching license.
And here's the thing. You love your son, but do you really want to steal his personality and who he is?
I don't want to have him be a zombie.
Having him all drugged up, right?
Yeah. I'm like,
and then it was a misdiagnosis. He had hearing loss, right? In one ear, or less ability to hear. So my wife and I had this discussion today at lunch. Do you know we're all, by definition, bipolar? And we hear these words like, oh, he's a narcissist. He is toxic. All these buzzwords that have been used for the last 5 years or so, or he's bipolar, ADHD, it used to be ADD, and all this stuff. Well, guess what? Some of the most successful entrepreneurs and billionaires are ADHD, right? And boy, it gives you a built-in ability to multitask, right?
Oh God, if I never had to do dishes and laundry again,
there you go.
You know what? I will put gas in the car.
Okay.
Nice. If I don't have to do the grocery shopping, I can just be like, hey, here's what I want. Make sure that you have it in the house. Or it was one of the things that ironically, and when I say ex-girlfriend, we lived together for 6 years. So obviously,
well, technically she was your wife if you lived together, right?
But it was like a lot of the household stuff. It's like, hey, when we go down to the grocery store, well, I like spending time with her. And we could just go rip through. It's a teamwork thing. All right, awesome. And I didn't mind it. But now I'm like, grumble, grocery shopping, mountain of dirty laundry, fold clothes and stuff like that. But when she and I were together, it was like, all right, hey, we're going to grab stuff out of the dryer, turn the TV on, dump a couple of hampers out on the bed. We're going to fold clothes, get everything sorted out while we're talking about what went on today. And it was just an easy day. But but like, billionaires and highly successful people, like, I'd rather just focus on hypnosis and having fun and actually just getting stuff done, generate money. And if you take all this other ancillary chore crap off my plate, I can focus on doing what needs to be done.
Yeah. And focus and clarity are the number one buzzwords my business hypnosis clients use. They need to get back into focus. They need more clarity on their personal goals, which then translate into their business goals, right? And so, but speaking about lack of focus, just to kind of tie a bow and wrap up the last little thing, but I had a client today. I've helped her get off of all the drugs, the painkiller drugs, okay, which are the toughest to get off of. And now she's down to 1 Xanax and 1 Ambien. But she was also taking Adderall. And you wouldn't believe the amount of drugs some people can take. There was a guy, a client of mine in Romania, that literally...
Real quick, to clarify, the pain meds and stuff, like, she had healed and she's no longer in pain. It's just that
she was
the amount that
to the
there was a chemical dependency that she was struggling with.
Yeah, she was taking so many they no longer worked anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, they no longer even caused Adderall, which is legal cocaine.
It's speed.
It's speed. She's off of that, but I had a guy in Romania that I got him off a bag of pills, literally pain pills and everything. He went through withdrawals. I work with some physicians to minimize as much as you can the withdrawal symptoms, which are massive. Fentanyl is one of the worst. I had one kid whose mom was a full-time nurse. She had to go to part-time to help him go through withdrawals. But fentanyl withdrawals are worse than heroin.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's nuts what fentanyl will do.
And, it's a 1950s operation anesthesia that's still used today in operating rooms and hospitals. But
I mean, I'm thankful that it exists for that purpose, but
and now there's a new version
called the street level stuff. Jesus,
there's a new street level developed by foreign scientists called carfentanil. That's even more addictive. And but anyway, this kid came to me after the withdrawal symptoms, and I made him find his strong enough why, his 2 beautiful daughters and his wife, and he now has he's getting twice the amount of money in his job. He bought his first house. I helped another guy in 1 hour. I literally showed him with his 2 kids and his wife at his open casket funeral, and the ghost of Christmas future had him crying. He came to me for sleep problems, guys, but then halfway through the session, he told me, well, when my wife and kids go to bed, I do 2 or 3 lines of cocaine. Well, there's your sleep problem right there. Right?
I was going to say, I mean, that's like a super latte for Grant.
And then he had been doing cocaine on the weekends and during the week for 9 years. And I got him so emotionally attached negatively to the cocaine,
right,
that he just talked to me a month ago. He hasn't touched it in 1 year and 11 months and has no desire ever to touch it again.
Now, that's awesome.
Now, I'm sure, Ozzy Osbourne used diet cocaine, diet coke, and other things to replace the drug. A lot of people that get off of alcohol or drugs will replace it with sweets and other addictive things. But, all the things I'm talking about now tie together. And whether we're addicted to being stuck, which is an addiction, procrastination.
Which is familiar, yeah.
Yeah. Did you know I deal with a lot of hoarders that I found hoarding is based mainly in depression, but anxiety and depression. Hey, I don't want to let go of the past and that memory, so I'm going to keep this. And then anxiety, what if I need this again in the future? Well, gee, you're now 40 and you used to wear that into high school, probably not going to fit anymore. And so
this doesn't apply to your random bucket of nuts and bolts. because someday you're going to need it, and it's going to be there.
I'm going to say that's an old time Ukrainian trait, is to keep absolutely everything, because at some point you may use it. But you know who else is really bad for that? Teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers love keeping every damn piece of paper that they've ever been given. And I've told this story before, I've had a teacher clean out 6 4-drawer legal size filing cabinets and give it away at the end of her career. And of course, the other teachers are taking these armloads of paper back to their room. That paper, I took 2 or 3 of the whitest sheets of paper I could find, obviously being the newest. Everything else had been there since the 70s, 80s, 90s, it was outdated. It was stuff that you would never want to teach again. But because, in education, what goes around comes around every 10 years or so, I might be able to make use of it again. And so I'll keep.
Actually, I'm gonna hop away real fast. I'll be right back.
Okay. Hey, sure. And that's anxiety.
Yeah, right? It is.
What if I need this again someday? Well, if you need it again, you've developed it once before, you can develop it again, or you can go buy a replacement.
Exactly.
But when I first got together with my wife, she is a minimalist and very efficient, and she told me a statement which is so true. If you haven't worn it, an article of clothing, in a year, you probably are never going to wear it.
Yep. I'd say that's pretty accurate.
You might as well give it away to someone a little more appreciative, or would fit into it, or could wear it, right? Yeah. Or, somebody who is a little less fortunate. But so anyway, I've touched on a lot of subjects here tonight. I don't know if you've ever had a guest like me.
Oh yeah, but, yeah. We're good. We're only just about an hour and a half in. We got like an hour and a half to go to get to the record. So.
Oh, okay.
But the one thing that I am struck by, as you described the successes that your clients have had, is that really once they got a good hard look at what they were stuck, where they were stuck, Christmas goes to Christmas present, and then had a good hard look at what the future could be and what they wanted it to be, that it was very easy for them to make that connection to say, hey, all I got to do is this, and then this, and then this, and boom, they're gone.
Yeah, and I give unlimited texting or Facebook messaging per client, and I give 1 additional phone call per session, which my psychotherapist clients and friends think I'm crazy. I gave a speech in front of 80 mental health professionals, 4 psychiatrists, doctors of psychology, and a lot of them used to watch me on TV here in El Paso, and they're like, what is this TV weather guy telling us about mental health, right?
Yep.
But halfway through my presentation, they're like, oh, that's right. And then one psychiatrist raised his hand and said, I didn't know that. So I won him over by the end of the session. But, a lot of times, someone who isn't trained in university, and I did find out with the military, they needed me to have a degree in order to help some people in special forces. And they emailed me. They didn't call me on the phone. They emailed me and said, yes or no, do you have a degree in this? I'm like, well, I have, psychiatrists, doctors of psychology that are my clients. An anesthesiologist as a client. But no, I minored in psychology. I don't have a degree. I took sociology, criminology. I just love the power of the mind. And I don't know if Becca's still with us, but, I got into it just because of magicians, a lawyer, and the fact that I knew through motivational tapes that, gosh, my dad used to listen to all kinds of Dr. Wayne Dyer and all kinds of motivational tapes. There was a guy out of Tennessee called John Shaw, I believe, and he was a good old boy. And he says, I know a lot of people out there in the audience have a college degree, but I ain't got none. But he said, one of my keys to success I gave in school speeches a lot, but one is practice, persistence is number 2, and third is enthusiasm. But he said the best definition of enthusiasm is the power of persuasion without pressure. Isn't that great? The power of persuasion without pressure. And so with my clients, I have them get enthusiastic about piano, which they haven't touched in 10 years. I have them get enthusiastic about racquetball, that at one time in their life, because when they're playing piano, when they're playing racquetball, guess what? There's no anxiety and depression. None. When they're doing something that they enjoy, that they're enthusiastic about. But yeah.
That's why skydiving was so fun for me, because you don't care about anything else. You are right there in the moment going, oh my God, this view is beautiful.
Oh yeah.
I'm plummeting to my death at 120, 130 miles an hour. And my dark veteran humor jokes with people that it's only a self-unsubscribing from life attempt until the parachute opens. But you also have, a tandem instructor on the back that, has skin in the game too, where it's like, let's all get to the ground safely.
Yeah. Let's all make it to the ground. I was on a 900-foot parasailing line. That's about as close as I got. The boat looked this big, but yeah. And in Jamaica, no problem, Mom. Are there any sharks in the water here? No, Mom, there's no sharks. And all of a sudden,
what
my
are those
girlfriend
dark things with the fins down there? They seem to be swimming in a circle.
Yeah.
Why do they know my landing area?
My girlfriend at the time, one time was snorkeling, and she was swimming towards me, and I saw a fin behind her, and then she took a quick right turn, and she was almost like, eat him, not me. She swam towards me as the shark was following her. It was a nurse shark, but still, yeah, kind of crazy. But
we have that same thought about bears here. As long as you can run faster than the slowest guy, you're safe.
Yeah. And I used to be a hiking guide. You can smell bears. They don't have the best personal hygiene, but you're supposed to stand still and put your arms out bigger than the bear, right? And just let him sniff you.
For some people, good luck.
Yeah. And don't have any snacks in your pocket. That's all I'm going to say. No food, hiking. But we've touched on a lot of subjects, but going back to the drugs, New Zealand and United States are the only 2 countries in the world allowed to advertise prescription drugs. But if you ever watch the side effects, the depression drugs, anxiety and depression, one of the side effects may cause suicidal thoughts. Well, gee, I had those before I took the drugs, right? I love the
them.
Yeah. It may cause temporary blindness. You may break out in purple spots, or your left arm may fall off, or you may die. And Humira was developed
for paralysis, low gas mileage.
But you hear all those, and Humira was designed for something, not skin psoriasis. But in 15% of their clients that had psoriasis, it actually cleared up the skin condition a bit. So now Humira is marketed for skin psoriasis. But my dad his family was from the Isle of Guernsey in the English Channel Isles. And I was raised on Monty Python and Benny Hill and a lot of British humor, old school. But I just picture my friends around me at my funeral, open casket, saying, "Oh man, what a shame about Chuck." But his skin has never looked clearer, right? I mean, my nephew is on anti-anxiety drug, and he says, "Chuck, Uncle Chuck, I have more anxiety being off the medication 80 times more than before I started taking it." So anyway, just a thought or two to think about.
Yeah,
Now, is in some cases medication needed? Yeah. When people have spun their anxiety up so much that it now causes heart palpitations and physiological unhealthy things, yeah, you need medication. But, when it comes to hypnosis, the brain doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality. And a lot of virtual reality video gamers have actually had heart attacks because they really believe the zombies are real chasing them, or they really believe someone's shooting at them. But that's exactly what anxiety is. Anxiety is the what if disease. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if a truck comes barreling through the front of my house? Well, what if?
And they're all playing the video games where like your character, leaps off of a 10-story building, and
oh yeah,
all you do is yell parkour as you hit the ground and roll out of it. All will be well.
But again, your mind thinks that's real. But I always tell my people with anxiety, what if your friend signed you up for a contest and you get a $25,000 check in the mail today? What if? You can just as easily use your mind for positive what ifs. So that's
some people will be like, zeros on that for me, will you?
Yeah, people. Some people will be like, I can't afford the taxes.
I'm Canadian. We don't pay taxes on lottery winnings.
We pay one of the lowest here in Texas because we don't have a state tax. And
so Washington State is just bend over, grab your ankles, and try to relax.
Well, it's kind of Californized. Colorado's kind of similar. New York.
Oh yeah.
When I'm paying $2.57 for a gallon of gas here, and they're still paying $4 or $5 a gallon in some places in California, all because of the taxes.
I was down at I got gas from my motorcycle. Of course, I have to put the premium in it, and it was $5.89 a gallon.
Mm-hmm.
Now it didn't sting very much because I put $18 of gas in instead of $14.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the extra $4 is not going to break me, but you put a 20-gallon tank. That's a significant difference. And I looked at the gas pump and I went, I remember I could fill up my Tacoma for like $19.95.
Yeah, I don't get political, but so many people bought EVs in California that Governor Newsom wanted to institute a walking tax because they weren't making up the gas tax money that they once were making because people were driving EVs and doing alternative ways of getting to work.
Washington State was the exact same thing. They're going, oh God, we're giving all these rebates and incentives and everything, so we're not getting the fuel tax or the tax on fuel. So Washington State, it's insane. We pay some of the highest state taxes on fuel, And in some gas stations, they've got the little sticker where it says, this is what you're paying in federal tax, and then this is what you're paying in state tax. And it's like, we've got tax upon tax upon tax. We last year we had a
it's ridiculous.
We had our election, and the current administration who's in place now, they ran on the ticket of, we will have no new taxes in Washington state. And it's like, 4 months later, we signed the highest tax increase in the history of our state, and people are calling for his head.
Well, and here's the thing too. I'm all about supporting people that are down and out. And I've been accused of being a nice guy, and it made it tough for me to go in full time into hypnotherapy because I was so nice, right? Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you this, the people that choose to be homeless in Washington and Oregon, a lot of them make more money off of state help money than they would at a job working.
So it's a lot of things. It's different programs. I see a guy that I used to work with at the gun range when he was doing his master's program, and he was studying sociology. And he says, one of the things that I had to do was, basically dress up, go work out in the yard and get kind of grungy, go stand on the corner at rush hour traffic in the morning, rush hour traffic in the evening. So for about 4.5 hours worth of work, he stood out there with a cardboard sign, and he goes, geez, I was making $400 or $500 a day. And this was 15 years ago. And he goes, so it's all tax free. Plus I get all of like my, EBT food stamps, that stuff. Plus my, rent subsidized, all these different things. And he's like, God, I almost quit my job. And then my dad was telling me that in Southern California, you'll have the kind of like your Mediterranean or, Armenian, Middle Eastern Chaldeans. They'll fly like two or three families, and they'll rent a 6-bedroom house, or they'll buy it.
Oh yeah.
The ladies will go by like different names. They'll get all of their EBT stuff and benefits. The guys will go and buy a gas station or a liquor store or whatever. And then they'll go grocery shopping. They'll fill up half a dozen shopping carts full of just chips and soda and whatnot, swipe 3 or 4 EBT cards, and then take those shopping carts into their $100,000 Mercedes SUV. And they're using the government to basically pay the overhead to, restock the little convenience stores. And then they go, oh, we've got Western Union to wire money overseas. We charge a fee for that. We're cooking. We got 2 sets of books. We deal with a lot of cash. And then what they do is they go, we've banked enough money. We'll buy the house across the street. And then they'll buy up like 8 to 10 houses in a cul-de-sac. And then at the end of the cul-de-sac, they just fence it off and they go, now we've got our family compound. And they'll just lather, rinse, repeat. It's very, very corrupt in Southern California.
Oh, and the thing is, the state of California is still on the verge of going bankrupt. And the only thing that
I burning down.
don't like, and burning down, which I'm a meteorologist, degreed weather person, but I have fire meteorology buddies that a lot of firefighters have been caught setting fires in California and put in prison. Worldwide now, it's called eco-terrorism, and you spend the rest of your life in prison. But they do it because the federal government pays them money to fight fires. And if there's no fires, then they're not making money. But they don't think about the thousands of wildlife they killed, the people they killed, the homes they burn, and all that. But I digress a little bit. But here's the thing. In California, the criminal shoplifting has more rights than the store owner who's being ripped off. And to me, I think that's kind of a shame.
Before my dad passed, he would go down to the grocery store like once a week, and he goes, he'd be like, probably 2 out of 3 times you'd watch people just grab all of their shopping carts and stuff and go to the self checkout, and they just bag up the groceries, put them in the shopping cart, and just walk out of the store. And down there, the loss prevention and the store employees are like, it's against our policy, we can't stop them. And my dad was like, 170.
Oh, it looks like Brian is freezing up.
Yeah,
he's like, I don't know why I'm paying for my groceries.
Yeah, and they work that into the price. But now back to the power of the mind. You know, politicians who want more tax money to give to the FOP, the Friends of Politicians, they use hypnotic words and phrases, don't they? You can hear a politician speak for an hour and say nothing, right?
Yeah, we also call them members of parliament, but
there we go.
I mean, it's like watching testimony in Congress. It's like, did you graduate? Do you have a 4-year degree? Well, thank you, Senator. That's a wonderful question, and blah, blah, blah. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to insert political point here. Hashtag Orange Man Bad, or Free Palestine, or whatever the case may be. And you're just kind of like, this is what my tax dollars are going towards?
Yeah.
And Washington State spent a bunch of time like, we're declaring, and after months and years of research, we have finally came up that pickleball is the national or the state sport. And I'm going, burying my head in my hands, going like,
and they gave a company probably $1 million to research what the most popular sport in Washington was.
Oh, they said, here's what we want the result to be. We need you to do the research, which it's legalized money laundering.
Yeah.
And while I take no pride that we're probably looking at Civil War 2.0 and we're knocking on its door, I fear that I fear that we're reaching that point, because the hypnosis and like the NLP and the mental manipulation stuff, it's propaganda, and this is kind of this is kind of that like nefarious side of kind of our craft.
It is, and my wife is at a whole other level. She helps me a couple times. She's helped me hypnotize people in Spanish, because I speak Spanglish, not really good as Spanish to hypnotize in Spanish. And I hypnotized a couple both at the same time, and she would repeat what I said and hypnotize them. They both went super deep. And at the end, I got the best compliment in the world. She said, "Hey, you're pretty good at this." So that was good coming from her. But I mean, she sees beyond the empty political talk. And, she's the one who continuously reminds me, we can only control us. And that's what I have to remind my clients. I have Holly Jones. She's given me permission to share. She is a female bodybuilder, owns a logistics company. And she came to me once 6 years ago, and she did a 3-minute testimonial video on my website. You'll see it, where she said, I wish the first time I went to Chuck, he would have hypnotized me to not be jealous. But this time I asked him to hypnotize me to not be jealous. And the first thing I said is, you can't control your partner, but you can work harder on improving yourself. And you can look at your partner and say, you're going to look at me. You can't resist me. You're going to love my smile. And the positive vibrations, which quantum physics is proven science, right? The law of constructive interference in physics, two waves of the same amplitude, when they meet, they double in positive intensity. Or if you're around a negative, what I call a carp or catfish, a negative vampire, if they're around you, they fall down and then they pull you down, right? And that's why back in the day when I was on TV, I'd go out and have a couple beers and maybe a shot. And I was hanging out with people that were pulling me down, right? And my wife said, there's a saying in Spanish, show me the 5 people you spend the most time with, and I'll tell you what you're smoking. But how true is that? And then I add the phrase, if you're the smartest person in the room, leave and find another room. And I said that to my female bodybuilder, and now she got a better trainer in bodybuilding. And she has really advanced. Because if you're the best weightlifter in your gym, you need to find a gym where you're not the best.
Yeah, I think there's that saying that you're the average of the 5 closest people that you spend the most time with.
Yeah, and that's the saying in Spanish, show me the 5 people you spend the most time with. And there for a while, I wanted to learn street smarts because I had double degree, my first degree and a second BS in meteorology, but I didn't grow up street smart. And so I wanted to learn that. But hanging out with people that are street smart, you start picking up on some street habits, don't you?
I think I think you learn to recognize it a lot more. And so, like, for me, I can, kind of just using the, congressional hearings and stuff like that. And even sometimes, like, I don't know if I'm sitting in a courtroom watching a hearing that's taking place before something that either I or the attorney are involved with. You listen to some of these people and the judge, it's like, I'm trying to get to the heart of the issue and I'm asking very pointed questions. And these people are so worried about, like, oh my God, if I concede that the other side has just a shred of something to their argument, I'm losing. And it's like, hey, did I understand the other side correctly, that they want this and you're asking for this? And it's like, oh my God, if you say yes, the other side's automatically going to win. And so they try to go spin the yarn into something else. And you're like, this is painful.
I love the Shakespeare quote that was written into a song by one of the top Canadian rock bands of all time, Rush. And the song is Limelight. But all the world is indeed a stage, and we are merely players, performers and portrayers, each another's audience inside the gilded cage. And when it comes to courtrooms, I used to, after the morning show on a Friday, sit at a kind of upscale bar with judges and attorneys, and they would be writing each other $20,000-$30,000 checks and settling cases before they went to court. Isn't that amazing? So, this was 20 plus years ago, but there in Texas, a lot of corporations won't bring any trials to court in Dallas because it's known they have the highest amount of federal and local judges that are on the take, right? So you'd like to think that everything is on the up and up.
Oh, and like the family law, some of the family law stuff. I'm like, there's no way you can't convince me that money didn't exchange hands.
Oh, no. We had a shooter at the local Walmart probably 7 years ago, go into a local Walmart. He was a rich kid who his parents, I guess, were partiers. He grew up with his super rich millionaire grandparents, but he decided that Mexicans were the problem in the United States. He came to El Paso, shot 26 people, 23 people died in a Walmart, opened up. And for the first time in Texas, the governor wanted to, well, in Texas, you do anything, you've got the death penalty. We have sent more people to the death row than all the states combined, right? But here's the thing. His parents had money, and all of a sudden, it didn't go. The death penalty was taken off the table. He got sentenced, and then he was moved to Houston, and then moved all of a sudden in the last few weeks to a prison closer to his grandparents' house. Now, there's what they say in law, the appearance of impropriety there, isn't there? A little bit? Maybe.
Yeah, the appearance of impropriety is impropriety in and of itself.
Yeah.
And real quick, while we're wrapping up the discussion, everybody needs to vote if Chuck is a friend or frenemy. But,
probably based on my religion and politics talk, I was trying to rival your last week's guest a little bit.
Oh, no. We're okay there.
Okay, good.
But yeah, we'll give it a.
Okay, what's the frenemy base there?
So all we need is a yes or no answer, and it's based on it's not a political answer. It's not anything in between. It's what is Chuck's opinion, and there is no wrong answer.
Okay,
or at least that's what we tell people.
Well, I was going to say that's what we tell people.
So, true or false? Does pineapple belong on pizza?
I love all food, but you want a yes or no, true or false?
Does Chuck think that pineapple is appropriate as a topping on pizza for your personal tastes? Don't give me no Congress bullshit answer.
Okay. False, but true if it's with Canadian bacon, eh?
Oh, that's...
what do you think? Okay. I guess I'm a frenemy because I'll eat it if it's there.
No. You could be starving and someone goes, pineapple on pizza, and you're like, I don't care, I'll pick it off, but I'm gonna down the hatch. But is pineapple something that you would order on pizza?
No, I don't order.
Then
but I have had Canadian bacon and pineapple. And it
was. Yeah. I often apologize for the fact that as a Canadian, we invented this abomination of a pizza.
Yeah. And actually, pizza right now sounds pretty good after almost 2 hours of talking away. And then I had 2 hour and 15-minute sessions. I had a marketing Zoom. I got up at 5:15 this morning. So I've accomplished quite a bit. But man, now where do you do your stage hypnosis, Brian?
So I did the majority of my work with Jim.
Okay.
We did primarily like grad night parties. We did a couple of corporate things, and then there was a I think one of our most fun shows was a private birthday party where they were like, go bananas. It's, there's no kids going to be around. You can do adult material, and that was hilarious. And then that's when we started our tech tip, and we learned that make sure that you turn the camera on and press. I'm sorry, the camera was on, but you have to press record because we were cleaning everything up, and we were like, dude, we can't wait to go see the footage. Blah blah blah. Let's go grab something to eat. We'll watch it, and because we had the laptop with us, and then Jim goes to break the camera down, and he comes back, and he's like, dude, it wasn't recording.
Oh,
there's nothing there. And I'm like, no, it had to do something. Like it probably just timed out. We got some material, pop it into the laptop, and it was like, nope, it's an empty memory card. So we were just like,
wow,
kicking ourselves. And I'm like, okay, they're all like baked and stoned out of their minds. And I think nobody's going to remember what happened. And I mean, everybody kept their clothes on. Nobody was being inappropriate. It was just silly, hilarious adult material.
And here's the thing. And I've watched a few podcasts, listened to some great ones. Rich Guzzi on the East Coast is a really good stage hypnotist. Michael C. Anthony is a student of Mike Mandel, and his hypnosis Jonathan doesn't like because he lets kids free fall to the floor when they're inducted.
There's some strong opinions about that.
Yeah, safety wise, insurance wise,
that is so, I think, irresponsible.
And he's an excellent hypnotist, but part of it.
So there's a bit that Grant Saunders does where, and without revealing everything, he goes, there's a part that I end my show, and it's sort of like a monkey see, monkey do, and everybody slowly lowers themselves down to the ground, and it's a clean floor and whatnot. But he goes, no, there's nobody that's like, sleep, and then all of a sudden, I mean, I'm 6'3".
If somebody, you might have just lost Becca because you said that.
No, if Becca, wakey, I'm 6'3". If somebody had me in trance and then dropped me from far away and I fell down and hit my head, that's a 6 foot fall for my head to hit the floor. And and that's the type of just, I'm just going to call it out what it is. It's idiotic. It's foolish.
He says, he gives the suggestion, you'll slowly, easily, or you softly fall to the floor and whatever. But
everything is fine until you watch some of the videos and you go, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, here is exhibit A, where he gives the command and my client just conks out.
And Alex William Smith called him out on the podcast that I did, and he says, Michael C. Anthony, is unsafe. And Jonathan Royal is Alex's stage name, but he is all about stage safety. And there was even one person who claimed injury in England, and they outlawed hypnosis or stage hypnotist shows for a few years. And then you have to be certified by the local township and all kinds of stuff to do stage hypnosis.
UK and England has a fair amount of hoops that you have to jump through. And I've got my own opinions on Justin Royal or Alex William Smith or whatever. Some of the stuff that he's posted, that if it was my family member, if it was my spouse, girlfriend, mother, sister, and I saw that pictures like that were posted on the internet, he would spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair.
Yeah. Yeah. And are you talking Alex or Michael C. Anthony? The guy who allows people to fall down?
Alex.
Oh, Alex. Yeah. Yeah. And Alex does things for controversy. And he's lightened up in his older age a little bit. But he did that for publicity because he grew up in a circus. And so he goes extreme with his publicity. But
I'm not familiar with all of the laws and stuff in the UK, but to paint a picture, when you're posting a photo of two individuals with their pants at their ankles in their underwear, and it's questionable if they're above the age of being an adult. And I'm gonna pull something from Kevin Lapine, quoting. Someone might go, "Oh, they're 17" or something like that. Okay, change 17-year-old with the word and replace that with the word child. You posted on the internet a child with their pants at their ankles in their underwear. I know in the US, if you don't have consent, permission,
and
all that stuff, like you're just asking, it's a black eye on the entire profession. You're asking for a lawsuit, and you're going to lose
shows
everything.
Years ago. He really doesn't. He's getting back into stage hypnosis, but he did some very controversial things years ago, and
now, if you're in an 18 or 21 up, or wherever everybody's a consenting legal adult, and it's like, look, okay, I have to record this show for liability purposes. Okay, that's the only thing that's going to be recorded. You're not going to allow other people's cell phones. You're not going to be posting pictures. You're going to take, proper steps to, block everything off, from the venue to the outside, and it's like, think of it like a strip club. When you walk in, it's like you make you make like a 180-degree turn. So there's walls all the way around. And then you've got the windows that are all heavily tinted and mirrored and reflect, so nobody from the outside can see in. And there's a reason for that. Because people don't need to be doing that. And again, I think it's just a black eye on the industry. And I really hope that, quite frankly, he pulls his head out of his ass.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the material that he used to post or whatever was from years ago when he was younger. He was on every sort of talk show and everything in England, and he did things for just publicity, and then he would make killer money doing the top pubs and other things. But yeah, I'm totally against that in the way of the adult shows. They've got to be, quote, adults for stage hypnotists to do that. So I'm in total agreement with you on that. For the most part, he's just been a trainer of hypnosis and stage hypnosis, and he does do a few shows a year, I think, and that's about it now. But he makes most of his money online with products. He was one of the original coaches or whatever, But I totally agree with that.
And I'm not going to repeat some of the stuff that I've heard, because one, I'll stipulate it's hearsay. I have nothing to see to. I haven't heard his side or verified anything like that. So anything that I would be saying is just repeating speculation. But as far as like social media posts, like, I saw that firsthand, and I was like, get that shit offline. We don't want it part of the groups. I don't want to be associated with it.
No, and he gets mad at Michael C. Anthony for stage safety, but then there's also safety of people that are on stage that volunteer as well. for their moral safety. I'll put it that way, and for people online.
Yeah,
but,
then everybody turns around and goes, in the industry, going, "Oh shit, my insurance rates are going through the roof." That's if I can get insurance rates. Oh, street hypnosis, and the street hypnosis subject is going to be a Ford and Chevy. I don't know, whatever the British equivalent or Canadian equivalent is. Metric versus standard. You're going to have people that are either like, yeah, it's a great way to do like batting practice and kind of keep your skills. And then there's people that are like, this is crap. Everybody just thinks it's fake. And, your mileage may vary.
And by the way, what insurance company do you have right now?
Right now, when I performed with Jim, I was under his insurance. So I have
Continental
not yet.
is pretty good.
Yeah, I've not yet done a show by myself. Again, it was going out to Jim shows. It was like, I'll ride along with you, and this is fun. I get to hang out with my friend, and I had I have a day job.
Nice.
It was like, this is just a fun hobby. It's a way for me to blow off steam. And 2025 was kind of one of those things that Jim had on the horizon, where he was really, really encouraging me. And he was like, yeah, like, look, this year, Grant Saunders was a big kind of influence in giving me that push. And then with Jim's passing and unexpected passing in December.
And I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Shawn had told me about that.
Yeah, that was a crazy phone call. I just stepped out of the shower and I was on a bath towel in my bathroom, and phone rings. It's a phone number that I didn't recognize. It wasn't saved in my phone, and just something said, pick the phone up, and it was his stepdaughter. And I thought she was in a car accident. I'm like, okay, yeah, Jim told you to call me. And then she goes, Jim passed away this morning. I'm like,
what?
404 file not found, does not compute, error messages. I'm like, no, that's not what you're supposed to say. And it was, so kind of,
it was tough.
It was one of those things where that in my second year of stepping into kind of, in a way, stepping into help every, because many hands make light work. Stepping in to partially fill Jim's role with the summit, and then just the overwhelming amount of support, the presenters, all the people, the wealth of knowledge. I mean, Tom Silver, Chris Jones, Salish, all those guys were like, Joe Beth, I was talking to him today. They were like, Brian, this, like, you can do this. It's not that hard. And then I kind of just went, all right, man, like, let's do this.
Nice. And yeah, any encouragement on my end. And I'm kind of like you. I want to do it sometime, but and
I owe this to this person, because Casey and I had a kind of a friendly wager of like, all right, who's going to do their first show first? And I was getting some dental work done, some surgery stuff, and she did her first show. She sold out. She knocked it out of the park. And while my competitiveness is like, I hate to lose that friendly wager, I could not be more proud of her. More excited. And she called me, was like, I need help with this. And I'm like, all right, let's dig in and solve the problem. So
well, keep after it. And Jim is there cheering you on. I believe we don't leave our energy. I believe my dad's right here next to me, laughing, saying some British humor, and cheering me on in my hypnotherapy. He was a chiropractor. So he's like, now, son, you know what I went through in getting leads and clients and patients and all that. But
we'd see a lot of that with the law firm. Is you get people who they're really, really good at their trade or their craft or whatever. They're just really not good at the administrative and the business side of things. And
the business side, no.
You have to put ego aside and be like, hire a CEO that can be the CEO. You can still be the owner of the company.
But you need a system for the business side. And that's what I'm learning now. But guys, this has been phenomenal. We have touched on so many subjects. And I do want to say that, gosh, I've learned a little bit from mainly stage hypnotists I've seen in videos online and in programs, and Darren Brown and in the UK and some of the methods and everything. But my business, I was on TV for many years, is called Lightning Hypnosis, Change in a Flash. I came up with that slogan before AI, and I'm very proud of it. But that's what hypnosis can help you do, help you change in a flash. And even all the
Shawn, are you able to throw that link up there?
Yeah, I don't know if it's lightninghypnosis.com, and then I have my business program as well, a landing page I put up on the joint Facebook Messenger if you want to put that up.
We'll get those links up on the screen and in the comments.
And I appreciate it. But getting the word out about hypnosis helps people get a holistic way of making a change, a lot of times instantly, and all the time positively, from the negative to the positive, from bad habits, negative routines, to just being stuck. And in sports, in boxing, going back to when they had a strong enough why. When you get beat up a couple times and lose a fight or two, it's tough to get back up to that level. Right. But it all has to do with mental, or football, or any sport there is, or just the sport of life, right? Is a tough enough sport every day. So that's what I really, truly love doing. And I'm just honored that you guys, Shawn said, "Hey, Chuck, I want you to be a guest next week." Okay.
So quick shout out to Stacy. She says, quite an informative talk. This is coming from Facebook. It says, thank you guys.
Stacey.
Thank you guys for always putting in all the effort. If any of you will be at the conference this weekend, I'll see you there. Stacy, can you clarify which conference that is?
That would be the Pacific Northwest Conference that's coming up this weekend.
That's Anthony Gilch's. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, Stacy, thank you. Hopefully we gave some good information. And I tend to be a little bit blunt sometimes, but it saves time. And hopefully I wasn't too controversial, was I?
No,
Not too bad.
Okay. And the thing about, I will always encourage, spirited debate, civil discourse, even if I, share a different opinion. I have the ability to compartmentalize and say, I understand your argument, your logic, your thought process. It makes sense. Congratulations, you're not crazy. And I'm not aiming this at you. I'm painting with a broad brush.
Sure.
And I can say that, and I can acknowledge it and go, I still am going to subscribe to my own, stuff on here, and that's okay. There's still freedom in the United States while it lasts. And I think that society would be a lot better off if we had more of it. Turn off a lot of the media. Your social media influencers generally aren't. They care about the revenue. What can you bring in? my goal and my wishes for everybody, regardless of religious preference, orientation, political affiliations, whatever, is that we all remain free. I wish for prosperity and success and happiness. And if we can do that, the world's going to be a better place. And if we all try to spread that, if we all try to spread that little bit of light, we're going to be okay.
Well, a lot of people that knew me from TV said, now that they really know that I'm a hypnotist, said, "Did you hypnotize us while you were on TV?" I'm like, yes, I did, into thinking I was a more accurate meteorologist, right? But at the end of my
it's going to be cold outside. You're going to want to put your coat on.
Yeah. At the end of my YouTube worldwide weather newscast, we showed tornadoes in Russia and whatever. I said this, if you need extra love, joy, happiness, money, give out what you need more of to somebody who needs it more than you. And if you have an excess of any of that, of course, always pay it forward and give it out. And the law of the universe, it'll come back to you. Not the same day, not the same way, but it'll come back to you positively, 80-fold in some way in the future. And it's a simple thing: give and ye shall receive. And you're giving out a lot of information. And, the world is kind of crazy. We've talked about some things that aren't as positive, but I believe once we educate people on the power of hypnosis, prayer, meditation, yoga, they're all forms of hypnosis. They're all forms of being in your subconscious mind. And you guys are part of the tools that educate. So thank you.
No, and I think that, people talk about the most precious commodity in our lives is time. And I think the greatest gift that you can give to somebody is for somebody that reaches out and helps you out, whether it's out of a dark place, tries to steer you towards success or whatever, that go be successful. Show that person or those people who helped you in your life that hey, you know what, your time wasn't wasted. Here's the return on your investment of kindness.
Very cool. Well, hey, thank you guys. My wife says it's almost bedtime, but she gave me the TV wrap sign coming up here. But Shawn and Brian, it has indeed been a pleasure. Hopefully you got a little idea of what the method I use and the way I motivate people in all walks of life to just succeed, like you said, and make positive changes. So
we'll get you on stage one way or another.
Okay, yeah. One day I'll get up there. I have no shyness, so I'd be fine up there.
Yeah.
And I've got a good memory of scripts and all that. So routines, you just show me a cue card of a routine and I'll go into it. So there you go.
Wonderful. Well, we will help out however we can. And for all of our folks watching, if you want to be a guest on the show, who's somebody who you might want to refer to us, we'd love to take a look, get in touch with us. Mainly that guy,
Shawn.
He's Shawn.
I didn't do it. Nobody saw you can't prevent anything.
Sean's the brains behind the operation.
Then we're all in trouble.
That's all right. I'll be the hair.
Sure. The one thing that would take me months to grow out.
Yep. Well, thank you again, guys. Have a marvelous night. Healthy, successful, positive week and rest of the year. And I'll watch your next week's here for sure. Yep, thank you very much.
Next week we do actually have a guest who actually did just book in. So next week we will be welcoming back Judge Mentalist.
Yes.
And
he's a mentalist.
He's a jack of all trades, and jack of all trades. I don't want to say that too fast.
Mm-hmm. And the week after that, we have another great hypnotist from Canada in the Toronto area, the GTA area, Tracy Beach.
Oh, very good.
Outstanding.
So it's we're working to make sure we're being as international as possible. I did reach out to a few people across the pond, and they said it's really late when you do that. And, no, I'm going to be sleeping.
You need to have Richard Barker on. He's over in England right now. He just landed.
Jim was working on getting Richard on as on the podcast, and we did get him kind of involved in PHS for a bit there. But it's tough to pin him down. He's all over the place.
He's a busy guy. Busy guy.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have an excellent night.
Before we go, Becca says, Brian, can you drop me down? Of course. So, Becca, get comfy. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Take a big deep breath in. And as you exhale, just, there we go.
Oh, sleep. Was I supposed to do that?
No, that was me.
Okay.
So, Becca, sleep, drifting, dropping, falling, peaceful relaxation, restful sleep. You're going to wake up tomorrow morning feeling just rested, refreshed, feeling absolutely amazing. And with that, guys, Shawn, take us out.
All right. As Jim would say, take care, stay well, be awesome. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Stay free, guys.